Hello, everyone. Lee McHugh in our NBC Sports studio. We'll get you out to Chicago for live coverage of the American Cup Gymnastics in just a moment. Today's competition takes place during a tumultuous time for USA Gymnastics. In January, Larry Nassar, a former doctor for USA Gymnastics and Michigan State University, was sentenced to up to 175 years in prison on multiple counts of criminal sexual conduct. More than 150 women spoke at his sentencing, including several Olympic champions, with many of their comments critical of USA Gymnastics' handling of the Nassar affair and its overall culture. Shortly after the trial, under pressure from the United States Olympic Committee, the entire USA Gymnastics Board of Directors resigned. An interim board has recently been appointed, with 6 independent members added earlier this week. On Wednesday, USOC CEO Scott Blackman also resigned, citing ongoing health issues resulting from prostate cancer. Also last month, the women's national team coordinator, Valerie Lukin, resigned, citing stress from the present climate, leaving the program without its de facto head coach. Lukin was not named in any of the lawsuits against USA Gymnastics. The process to find his replacement is underway. Andrea Joyce is in Chicago with more.
It's been 3 months since Carrie Perry took over as president and CEO of USA Gymnastics. Now, they declined our request for an interview with her here in Chicago. She did, however, release an open letter to the gymnastics community this weekend. In it, Perry addressed some of the major concerns facing the organization, including athlete safety. She also released a statement to NBC saying, quote, "The best way to honor our athletes is to ensure that we do everything we can to prevent this from happening again by making bold decisions and holding ourselves to the highest standards of care." You can read the entire statement on NBCSports.com. Meantime, current national team members are determined to continue pursuing their dreams in the midst of all of this. Recently, they took to social media to voice support for the victims and to express their resolve to move forward. A picture of unity with the hashtag WST, We Stand Together. I spoke to Morgan Hurd, the U.S. headliner at this American Cup. She told me it was very important for her to be part of this message. Tokyo 2020 is only 2.5 years away. These are uncertain times, but Morgan is laser focused on this early step to the Olympics, the American Cup. And we'll have that competition for you coming up.
Listening to the courageous women explain in significant and painful detail Larry Nassar's impact on their lives has no doubt changed every one of us. I commit to you that I will keep their powerful words and experiences at the core of every decision I make every day. It won't be easy, and we cannot do this alone. We need the entire gymnastics community to join us. Together, we can protect our children.
The Sears Center Arena in Hoffman Estates, Illinois, about 30 miles northwest of Chicago. We're on this first weekend in March. It is the 43rd edition of the American Cup, the most important international competition held in the United States each year. American Yul Moldauer is the defending champion for the men from this event. He's also the leader today after 2 rotations. 2 Americans in the top 4 at the moment. Alongside Moldauer, Alan Bauer in 4th place. Steve Schlanger with the Olympic gold medalist, Tim Daggett, Nastia Lukin. Andrea Joyce is also with us. And Moldauer, a terrific start to the defense of his crown from a year ago.
Yeah, this is a great spot that he finds himself in. Floor exercise was his first event. Absolutely fantastic. Almost halfway through the competition here and has a great lead.
Yeah, his breakout really came at the American Cup. In the gymnastics circle in the United States, everybody has been talking about this kid since he was a little boy. Such an unbelievable talent. One of the nicest guys you'll ever meet, and just really an elegant gymnast. He won the American Cup last year, won the national title in the all-around. went to the World Championships, and I was in Montreal, and I'll tell you what, there was a buzz about Yul Moldauer. So clean, his execution. People were coming up to me. It was like, wow, where did this kid come from? I say I've been watching him since he was a little boy, but just a really classy looking gymnast, and he deals with the pressure typically very well.
Got to talk to him earlier this week and spend some time with him. He showed me the background of his iPhone, the logo of Tokyo 2020.
Did not make the team for Rio, and that's made him even more motivated, hungry, already preparing for the next Olympic Games.
Was actually 5th all around at the final Olympic trials. He's so light, and so he makes these strength parts look effortless. You see, he opens his hand right there. He does that to telegraph to the judges, I am not on my wrists at all, which would make the lever arm shorter and make it easier. Does it here as well. Tremendous swinger as well. And then right back to that cross, just freezing. Doesn't have the most difficulty in the world, but certainly one of the cleanest gymnasts that you'll ever see, and he can stick too. Watch this, double-double. Oh! Yikes! That is really good news for Yul and really bad for everybody else.
On a roll here just outside Chicago. We'll get his score in a moment. Meantime, over on the vault, this is the American Miley O'Keefe, who turned 16 years of age earlier this week.
She'll do a double twisting, laid out Yurchenko.
And that was good. That was a great start right here on the vault. Good form in the air, got some great height, and let's look right here. So we're gonna look for extension right off the vault, little bit of toes in the air, crossed over each other, so that'll be some deduction, but great landing. You see the chest up.
But I'll tell you what, you never know how an athlete is going to perform until they're in that situation. This American Cup, it's on podium. It's obviously being televised live. It is one of the events that every kid that is in this competition, certainly the Americans, they dream of winning an Olympic gold medal, a world championships, a national title, and they want to be American Cup champion. She rose to the pressure right there.
And a green color is a good score, as you see, 14.6. Less than a point of deductions, and this is the color-coded scoring system that just helps simplify what the judges are thinking. Green is good, red is a poor score, and yellow is kind of everything in between.
There are two components to the score. One starts at a 10, and that's what we just showed you right there, deductions. The other part is the difficulty, what they do, and that's additive. The more you do, the higher your potential score.
So Tim, as you mentioned, this is her first year as a senior athlete, was of course the junior national champion last year, and if we put her scores roughly, would have placed her second in the senior division.
Well, here is the American Morgan Hurd, reigning world champion. She was set to go on the vault a little while ago, but then had to wait because of an injury to the athlete who preceded her, and it caused a delay of about 15 minutes. Mao Yi suffered an injury on a fall coming off the vault, has been taken to a local hospital.
It was so long, they had to give the athletes another warm-up period, and Morgan was first up. And this is her vault. That double twist. Really nice. Good power. A big hop on the landing, but overall, pretty darn good.
But you know, Tim, that's exactly what she told us all week. As she said, I feel like my difficulty is there, but that's what I want to work on. My execution, my landing specifically on every single event, including this one right here. Good form in the air, little bit of a pike down towards the end, but that was a big hop.
How tough is it to wait through that kind of a delay, something that's rather unusual?
Very unusual. And, you know, this is, of course, she's competed at the World Championships, but the American Cup is a big competition, a lot of pressure, especially now coming in as the reigning world champion, but she handled it so well.
And, you know, not just the weight, but, you know, it was a pretty significant injury that Mao sustained. Very scary to watch, and I'm hoping none of these athletes were watching when it happened.
Bye, Alan.
And now back over to the rings and the men. Yul Moldauer a score of 14.3. So he has seized upon some momentum here today at the American Cup.
I believe he's the only athlete on the men's side that has had 3 scores that are all in the green. Floor exercise was great. His second event, pommel horse, tremendous, and a really beautiful routine on rings. Capped it off with that stuck landing. He was 7th all around at the World Championships, but earlier today on the floor exercise, 2.5 twist, small little hop. That was probably the biggest area in the whole exercise. Triple full at the end, and just a teensy hop forward. On pommel horse, huge difficulty. Watch this. He'll turn his body the opposite way. Those are called spindles, and after a grueling routine, just zooms up to a handstand. We saw a lot of athletes falter on that.
Come on now, let's go.
And now his fellow American, 4th after the last rotation, Alan Bauer, was 2nd at the U.S. Championships a year ago in the all-around, taking the silver medal.
He said when he got the call, actually an email, to compete here, he was so surprised and said, you know, I may not be getting too many of these chances, so I am going to soak up all this experience.
And actually, he is hoping to go to med school and was supposed to be interviewing this week in Denver, but he got the invitation and he talked to his coach, Mark Williams, and they decided to call Denver, and he got it rescheduled to be able to be here. This is a good routine, but you see the bent elbows right there, and right off the top, he had some strength parts and another bit of a struggle in the handstand. The hold positions weren't great. Nice dismount, double-double, but a 3/10 step on the landing. He has been tremendous today. Great floor, great pommel horse. That was not as good as he can do.
A product of the University of Oklahoma. He'll turn 23 years of age this coming Wednesday, and his score coming up when we come back. The American Cup is brought to you by USA Gymnastics Safe Sport. Together we can. And by the National Gymnastics Foundation Athlete Assistance Fund. We are just northwest of Chicago in Hoffman Estates, Illinois, and after 3 rotation on the men's side, it is the American Yul Moldauer trying to defend his title at this event from a year ago. He's the leader over Sunway of China, James Hall of Great Britain, and Moldauer's fellow American Alan Bauer, who is down there in 4th. Meanwhile, on the women's side, it is Miley O'Keefe, the American, at the top of the standings after their first rotation on the vault. The reigning world champion Morgan Hurt of the U.S., not too far off the pace, though. She is in 3rd. And we welcome you to the Sears Center Arena here in Hoffman Estates, Illinois. Steve Schlanger flanked by the Olympic champions, Tim Daggett and Nastia Liukin. And now that the Winter Olympic Games have been put to bed, it's Tokyo 2020 on the clock. The Summer Olympics up next. And the path to Tokyo really is starting to take shape with a very prestigious international event like this.
It absolutely is, and what an amazing experience, both for Morgan and Miley and the rest of the field. But this is exactly what they are getting ready for. The World Championships later this year, but Tokyo, of course, is on all of their minds, and this is a great preparation for that.
Hey, I'll tell you what, so far, Yul Moldauer has been spectacular. We're halfway through the men's competition. He has 3/4 of a point lead over the second gymnast. He really just needs to stay clean the rest of the way, and he's going to win 2 in a row. And this is a great field. Kenzo Shirai, one of the top gymnasts, floor exercise world champion, vaulting world champion, a bronze medalist at the last Worlds. You know, it's a good field. He has struggled so far.
Last year was really the breakout year for Yul Moldauer. Not only did he win this American Cup, he also won an NCAA championship and really burst onto the scene, and now taking his first steps towards the next Olympic Games, as we see Kenzo Shirai of Japan, who's in 7th after the 3rd rotation, now on vault. Started strong on the floor in the 1st rotation, was the leader after that, but then a disastrous pommel horse in rotation number 2 has really dropped him in the standings.
And not good on rings as well, but here is where he can jump back. He is tremendous. As I said, he's the reigning world champ on this event. Very clean. He's actually capable of adding a half twist to that vault. And that's one of his 6 elements that are named after him. It may not look that hard, but that is a really complicated vault, executed great.
Now Morgan Hurd on bars.
Nice handstand position.
Beautiful form.
Now she'll do another release and connect down to low. She was a little close on that first one, but dealt with it extremely well. She talked to us about being better at the sticks. Do one more inside skill, gets a lot of points, a little shy on that handstand. And a little bit of a hop on the landing. A solid routine, gonna keep her in the game, but she can be a little better.
She absolutely can, but this is also a new routine. She's had some upgrades pretty much on every event since the World Championships. And what a great way to start off her season, to come out here, test out those new skills. And that's something she is so great at, her form. So take a look, toes pointed, knees straight. So beautiful, as she said, really wanted to work on those landings. But this release, as you said to him, a little bit close, but was able to connect it into what we call a pack salto. Beautiful skill.
And that's veteran-like right there, because that was really close and didn't have a good swing coming into it, but you'd never notice. This is the dismount right here. Now look at the handstand position. These judges are brutal on that, and that hand goes down. That's at least 3/10 of a point off. She connects it, which gives her more, but look right here. That's what she's trying to get better at. She needs to be a little more patient with her landings.
She wears glasses because she says contact lenses really collect all the dust that builds up. And so she prefers the glasses, but it's really a rare sight. You never see someone competing in glasses.
Very, very unusual. Yeah, I talked to her about it, you know, when she was first coming up, and she said the chalk, it just made my eyeballs hurt.
And her score, 14.2.
Got it.
Just inside of 2 points of deductions.
And you see that yellow right there, and you know, as I said, you know, these judges, they are going to be really critical. And she had those handstands in the routine where she's not exactly vertical. They take for that.
And the German Elizabeth Seitz, who is 6th after the 1st rotation. Next up on bars, the 24-year-old who was born in Heidelberg. Silver medalist at the all-around in the European Championships from a few years back.
I'll tell you what, though, she had the most dreaded position at the Olympic Games. She was 4th on the uneven bars, just barely out of the medals. I know how that feels. I was 4th on high bar, and that kind of never goes away. Picking up speed for her dismount.
And that was a good routine, difficult, but a few places here and there, some leg separation, some form, hop on the landing. As you said, Tim, that is what the judges are going to be taking deduction. They will not look past any of that.
But Nastia, you know, in the past, she has done much more difficult exercises than this. She's capable of more.
Absolutely, and again, I think as we've talked about, this competition is kind of that kickoff to their season, so maybe not quite ready. Little bit of those flexed feet as she passes that bar.
And another thing the judges are looking for when they do the skills where they're flying in the air, the releases, they want to see flight on those. They want to see a lot of height. That one was pretty good. The transition to low, nicely done.
Here's that dismount. So again, looking for good height in the air. And when you are landing, the judges are not only looking for how many steps or hops you take, but where your shoulders are. So not too bad.
Now on an even bar, score Great Britain, Kelly Sim.
And the score 14.2, 1.9 of deductions for the German Elizabeth Seitz.
Identical deductions to Morgan Hurd.
And now Kelly Sim, 5th place after rotation number 1 from Great Britain. Won a team bronze medal back at the World Championships in 2015. Mainly just did this event last year.
Little low on that handstand, and she was hoping to connect it to that skill. Not a deduction for not connecting it, but she will lose a little bit of bonus there.
And that 3rd place team that you were speaking about, that was a huge accomplishment for Team GB. Asking her about the American Cup, she said it's a dream competition. I've watched it streamed for so many years. A good dismount, a little bit messy in the air, and the slight hop backwards, but some of the handstands are going to certainly come to get her.
Now, she said she just hasn't competed much over the last few years. How difficult is it to come into a tough premier competition like this and find your A game?
Yeah, it absolutely is, and she kept telling us that this arena is just so massive. And here's that handstand right there. You see very low, could be up to 5/10 deduction.
I think so, yeah.
As I said, she was going to try to connect it into this skill. So she just lost some tenths in the difficulty score, so didn't get the bonus for connecting those 2 scores. We'll get deduction for that low handstand.
And the dismount right here, gaining a little bit of speed, which is critical. And like I said, you see the legs apart from this angle. You really see that a lot, but you know what? The judges can't see that. We're looking at it directly straight on. They are looking from the side, and it's very hard to see that. But she had a little bit of knees and flexed feet in the air.
And interesting that judging is getting harsher, it seems, every year, and especially after the Olympic Games in Rio.
Yeah, I just don't know why I mean, 2.334 off, you know, for a routine that didn't have a major break. I don't know why they want to make it harder and harder. I don't get it.
Now Miley O'Keefe in a good spot, tied for 1st. And after the first rotation here just outside of Chicago.
And a very nice start with double twisting Yurchenko.
Little short on that handstand, but was able to connect it. Beautiful.
This is critical right here. Struggled a little bit. Tricky combination. Another release. Oh boy. Way too close to the bar.
That does not feel good. Well, fantastic recovery from that. You know, sometimes on these release skills, and I have to tell you that I've been there before, you sometimes get a little bit too nervous, want to make sure that you're going to catch the bar, and that is why you might pull in a little bit, but that is a big no-no.
And while she's a 2-time junior national champion, this is her senior level debut, so on the big stage for the first time.
Beautiful pack salto. One of my favorite skills. Immediately back up to the high bar. Beautiful combination. This is what makes the uneven bars so difficult, is when you do skills in a row without any extra swings, without those extra giants in between. But right here, look how she just holds on to the bar way too long. Surprised she was even able to hold on to that and catch the bar.
ask you a question, very easy question.
But that is a huge deduction for doing that, and she takes an extra swing. Her dismount was beautiful. It's an Arabian double front, little unorthodox, a great landing.
And unfortunately, too, her coach touched her after that as well, will incur some deduction.
So Miley O'Keefe will get her score when we bring you back to the American Cup. Miley O'Keefe with over 2.5 points of deductions on the uneven bars, a score of 13.233 for the 16-year-old from Las Vegas. And now over to the 21-year-old, Yul Moldauer from the University of Oklahoma, the leader after 3 rotations here at the Sears Center Arena.
By 3/4 of a point. He doesn't have the hardest vault in the competition. Both Kenzo Shirai and Sun Wei do a more difficult one. Yul is going to do, it's a Sukahara style vault named after the great Japanese gymnast, but he'll add 2.5 twists to it. Oh man, I'll tell you what, he just makes it look so darny too easy, because that is not easy to do. It's relatively a blind landing, and he just finds the floor in just the smallest little hop.
And now this is Brooklyn Moores of Canada, a 17-year-old who made her international debut at the World Championships a year ago. Was 5th.
Oh boy, this is
struggling.
Huge mistake right off the top. Had such a breakout world. Her sister, Victoria, was a super successful gymnast for Canada.
Competed at the American Cup multiple times. Brooklyn says she remembers watching her sister, and now to be able to be here was so great. And that was unfortunately not a great routine for Brooklyn, but where she really is great is on the floor exercise. Absolutely stunning. The artistry, the grace, the beauty.
Absolutely. Just gorgeous stuff, but right off the top, she's just way over on one of these handstands. So right here, this is a free hip, and you see the legs come apart. She is nowhere near handstand. That's 5/10 for the position. That right there, another 5/10 for tucking.
And, you know, she said that her sister actually helps coach her a little bit, sometimes moves the mats for her. And she says it's really great because obviously she has so much experience, knows her so well, but she knows when she needs to kind of step apart.
Now, might not be anticipating her score, which is coming up in a moment. Yul Moldauer on the vault, 14.7.
That is a giant number. Look at that, less than a half a point in deductions. That is a rare thing to see in gymnastics at this point.
And now supporting his teammate Alan Bauer, who is up next.
Alan Bauer was team captain at Oklahoma last year, was part of that team that went 3 in a row NCAA championships. And he's in 4th now. He started after the first rotation in 7th, but he is the kind of guy that just will creep up on you because he never opens the door. Gonna do the exact same vault we saw from Yul right here.
Wow.
that was spectacular. There are very few people on planet Earth that could land in that position after doing that much gymnastics in the air and not take a step. That is what he is so good at. He doesn't ever give up on something. He is so calm, so patient. And it's not like a huge vault, doesn't get gigantic air, but he works to the end, and look, he just waits. Wow.
It's interesting. Patience and consistency are something that a lot of athletes never fully achieve, and he seems to have both.
Well, he like overperforms, like consistently overperforms. He does have form in the air, as you see that, and he does squat down a little bit, but he is a fighter, absolute.
Now the U.S. all-around silver medalist. He turns 23 this coming Wednesday. Born in Nebraska, raised in Arizona, and is graduating from the University of Oklahoma last year. A score of 14.5. And Philipp Herder in 5th place. And after 3 rotations, the German up next on the vault.
Handspring double front. Hangs on to that landing. A good job. Going to get some deductions for how low he squatted to the ground. But I'll tell you what, this guy, he had to help Team Germany qualify to the Olympic Games for 2016. They had to go to the test event, and he was part of that team. And a big reason why Germany made it to Rio, unfortunately for him, he didn't get the call.
And now over to the bars. Yeah, this is Mai Murakami, tied for first. If she were to win this American Cup, she would be the oldest woman to ever win it at the age of 21. World floor champion from last year in Montreal. Off to a good start so far here today.
In the qualifying for the World Championships, she actually was #1 and really had the championships if she had stayed on balance beam. She came off, ended up 4th.
But what a breakout performance for the Japanese women's national team. The men have just been on top, so dominant.
Nice swing to a release skill there. Another release.
Beautiful.
Now that's the same one we saw Miley struggle with. She does basically the same skill. One of them is straddled, one legs together.
That handstand very low. Back on track right there.
She's a great gymnast. That cast to handstand also low. Going to be a deduction, but this is a pretty darn good routine. She's going to be in the hunt.
So that is the end of this rotation for the women. Her score coming up. Yul Moldauer, the very charismatic 21-year-old American, in a good spot on the men's side. He's the leader here in Chicago. Back in Chicago at the American Cup, and the standings for the men. After 4 rotations, it's the 21-year-old American Yul Moldauer who has the lead over Sun Wei of China. Fellow American Alan Bauer rounding out the top 4. While over on the women's side, still working their way through the early rotations at the American Cup. 2 down, and it's the reigning world champion Morgan Hurd, the 16-year-old, who is leading the way. Once again, Steve Schlanger alongside Tim Daggett and Nastia Lukin. And as far as Yul Moldauer, he has been on a roll. Got off to a strong start on the floor and has really just been building throughout the day.
Absolutely. You know what? I have seen Yul have a lot of great competitions, but honestly, I think this is the best he has ever looked. He is on track to win 2 American Cups in a row. That is a very elite group of athletes that have done that.
And as far as Morgan Hurd on the women's side, coming off that world championship title in Montreal last year, what a sensational moment for this young woman.
It absolutely was. She came in maybe not necessarily as the favorite to win the gold medal. Of course, teammate Reagan Smith went down moments before the competition started, but she delivered a performance of a lifetime. Best in the world. When we talked to her earlier this week, we said, what is it like to be the best in the world? She goes, me? I don't think you're talking about me. It's very cute.
Yul Moldauer hopes to keep the momentum rolling here at the American Cup. We'll see him as we continue from the Sears Center Arena. Women on beam. This is Elizabeth Seitz of Germany. Her first time back at the American Cup since 2013. 2-time Olympian. And an athlete who struggled with back pain leading up to the World Championships last year, coming back healthy this year. And for so many of these international athletes, this is their first big event of the year. For some of the college gymnasts, they're already in the middle of their season, so they maybe have an advantage of being more on form. But for some others, they're just getting into the swing of things.
Absolutely. The college men, they are a little bit more prepared for this, but I'll tell you what, she is such a veteran. She has competed at every World Championship since 2009. And as I said earlier, just a heartbreakingly close competition at the Olympic Games on uneven bars. 33 thousandths of a point she missed a medal on, and she lost it to her teammate Sophie Schrader. But she's done a lot of amazing things. She won a World Cup last year on the uneven bars. She won the Olympic test event on uneven bars. And she said, you know, we spend so many hours, hour after hour, alone in the gym, just working and working. I love the competitions. I get to come and show off to the thousands of fans that are there and show them just how hard we work. Oh boy.
Some nerves right from the top, but good save.
Seems to be on track again. Oh boy, simple full turn that she's done since she was a child as a gymnast on beam, and has not a small adjustment, you know. As I said, such a veteran, but on balance beam, even veterans can get eaten alive if you get a little bit cautious. Just doubting herself, you know, it's a little bit of self-doubt.
How do you deal with that doubt? How do you put it out of your mind and just focus on what's in front of you?
Well, you know, I think a lot of it comes down to the training. When you can go in training and be so confident in every single turn that you do, and maybe have little play meets or something in training where you feel like in training you're competing and vice versa. When you're competing, you're training. It really is a mental game. She is physically prepared to do every single skill in that beam routine. We have seen her do it here so much better.
Yes, absolutely.
And that is a sign of nerves.
And you know, the thing for me and what I've always said to athletes is you have to be exactly in the moment. You can't be thinking about what just happened. You can't be thinking about what's coming up. You have to be exactly in that moment. And I think her mind was wandering a little bit throughout that routine.
Really have to take it one skill at a time. When you're on your first skill, you can't be thinking about the third or fourth or the dismount that you might be a little bit nervous on. Truly taking it one thing at a time.
It's really the psychology of sports. You always train the physical skills, but the mental are just as important. Her score coming up as we continue. Back with the score of German Elizabeth Seitz, 11.6. As you see that red color, not the numbers she was hoping for.
3.1 in deductions, and basically every skill in the routine, she doubted herself, and every single time she lost 1, 2, 3 tenths on these skills repeatedly.
And next up on beam is the American Miley O'Keefe. Two-time U.S. junior all-around champion.
Her first senior competition, she said that she loves being with Morgan because they keep each other calm. And, you know, she has a little bit more experience than me, so it's very nice to have her here cheering for me, helping me out.
And this routine is spectacular. It is jam-packed This is called a wolf turn. And that right there. It's a risky turn. I saw her do that probably 15 times since she has been here in Hoffman Estates, and I have not seen her fall yet. Here we go. This is a huge test. A side aerial into 2 layouts in a row. Oh, my gosh.
Absolutely gorgeous, and that combination is so difficult. But when done right, just like she did, it is stunning.
Absolutely. One of the higher difficulty scores. You don't see 2 tumbling runs like this very often on beam. Also, 3 skills in a row, and she'll actually rebound into a layout and land with 2 feet, which is much more difficult. Watch right here. Oh. Tough stuff. Hang on to that. Dismount here. She'll finish with a double back in a piked position. But she's a great gymnast. She really is tremendous. Beautiful to look at in every way. But just, you know, I mean, this is big time. She's on a podium, live television. It's the American Cup. Her coaches, Soren and Tammy Saucianu, this double turn, like I said, saw her do this time after time and make it successfully. That's the first one I saw her miss.
But she came back in this series, side aerial to back layout, super difficult, gorgeous. So again, 4 inches wide, like we always say.
That's 3 aerial elements in a row.
Dead on. You have to be so precise in this combination. There is absolutely no room for error.
Rebounds here into this layout. Just a little bit of a balance check, but I'll tell you what, she puts this routine together, and this is just a huge exercise.
And you know, she hasn't had her best showing here at this competition, but do not count her out. This is early in the season, her first competition as a senior. Miley has a bright future ahead.
Just turned 16 years of age earlier this week, and after the fall off the beam, nice bounce back to try and reestablish the confidence, re-engage with the routine. Nasty, what's the toughest thing about making that leap from the juniors where you have all that success to now all of a sudden you're with the best in the world?
Yeah, well, it's big time, you know, especially being a senior, the World Championships coming up. This is what every little girl dreams about, becoming a national team member, then a senior national team member, and ultimately becoming an Olympic team member one day.
13.066 for Miley O'Keefe. And now, from north of the border, the Canadian Brooklyn Moors in 7th place after the second rotation for the women. 17-year-old from Cambridge, Ontario.
Beautiful gymnast in her own right. Her last, actually on vaulting, she struggled and did not make her vault around to her feet. Oh boy. And I'll tell you what, she has a very difficult combination planned. I hope she does it. I have never seen anybody do this, but she's going to do a front aerial and then a front flip right out of it. Oh my God, that was great. Oh, jeez. That is so hard. Never have I seen anybody do that. She practiced it repeatedly and, you know, was very methodical about it in the training. I saw her make a lot of them, but I also saw her come off the beam as well.
You know, every single person that has wobbled or fallen has all been on the same side.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. I was a little superstitious and always had to make sure the beam was straight, but not trying to create any excuses. But I do find it interesting that Every single mistake has been on one side. And even with the fall, that routine, it was just kind of a breath of fresh air. So many unique skills that we're not used to seeing. Gorgeous dance in between the elements.
Yeah, she's a beautiful gymnast. You know, at every Worlds and Olympics, they have a Longines prize for elegance for someone who exudes that quality, and she was that recipient at the 2017 World Championships.
And here's that combination, Tim. You were talking about the front aerial. So you see right here, immediately into a front flip. Just was completely off. So here's another look.
That's hard. I mean,
very hard.
That is really hard, and you know they may end up deciding that it's too much. Here's her dismount, a little bit unorthodox, to front handspring into a laid-out somersault with 1.5 twists. We call that a Rudy.
Trying to follow in the path of her older sister Victoria, the Olympian from 2012, Brooklyn Moores, awaiting her score here at this American Cup. It is always such a compelling event, a unique blend of decorated Olympic medalists, world champions, up-and-comers making their senior level debuts. So a chance to mingle with so many different types of gymnasts from around the world and serve as a yardstick for where you're at.
Absolutely, and you know, her sister Victoria, she was third in the all-around at the 2013 American Cup, and she did that in Simone Biles' coming out party. Simone didn't win that. Caitlin Ohashi won it. Simone was second, and we have learned this week that Simone Biles is back on the U.S. national team, and that's a good thing for her. But I'll tell you what, all around the world, everybody is going, oh gosh.
And in order to be placed back on that national team, she had to submit her current training videos to that selection committee, who said, yep, you're ready to go.
But I'll tell you what, though, it's just Maria Paseka, who is a tremendous gymnast from Russia, world champion on vaulting, just an unbelievable athlete. She was quoted as saying when she heard Simone was coming back, it was like, please, please don't come back. You have too many medals already. Let us have some.
Give someone else a chance.
How long would it take someone like Simone Biles, with her immense talent, to get back to her top form?
Well, you know, she never let herself get completely out of shape, you know, and she is just, not only is she a great gymnast, but she's a phenomenal athlete. And so things come easier for her, and she can get back into shape a little quicker.
Yul Moldauer trying to maintain his position at the top of the standings.
This is actually my favorite routine for Yul. Beautiful execution. Now, watch this right here. I'm going to do a giant and then one more. Well, look, spin on one arm. I'll tell you what, gymnasts dream of having error-free days like Yul has had. This doesn't happen very often nowadays. Big dismount, double front half. He can stick that, but another really solid exercise for Yul Moldauer.
National silver medalist on the parallel bars. And Yul Moldauer, a comprehensive performance here today at the American Cup. And Morgan Hurd, the reigning world champion for the U.S., is up next when we continue. A 14.5 on the parallel bars for Yul Moldauer, who continues his march to what he hopes will be back-to-back titles at this American Cup.
And as I said, that's another green. 5 events in the green. Doesn't happen.
It was like last week. Yeah.
He was sick on Thursday during the warm-ups for this event, was trying to get over that, and I would say that he has conquered the illness coming in here today and really got off to that hot start and has not looked back.
Good up to the OU guys, all my friends back in Colorado.
Had a bit of a fever on Thursday.
And now Morgan Hurd, the leader on the women's side.
I got to spend quite a little bit of time with her in Texas a few weekends ago, and I was just so surprised. I've gotten to know her over the years, but so surprised about how mature she really is. Acted way beyond her age. It's fun to spend some time with her outside the gym, but she not only is mature outside of the gym, but really inside the gym as well. Handles the pressure, the adversity really well.
Yeah, her coaches say that one of the major reasons for her success is she is an absolute workhorse, taking 2 to 3 turns more than every other gymnast in the gym.
She says her teammates get a little mad at her sometimes because she'll jump in when no one's on the bar and they'll say, hey, that was my turn. Well, no one else was going.
Now, she lives with her mom, Sherry, in Delaware, just about an hour outside of Philadelphia. And her mom says, I don't know where she got all of these skills in terms of the organization, the independence, the poise, the maturity. I didn't have any of that, but she's just had it since I can remember.
Yeah, talk about an early achiever. She says that ever since 3, I knew I wanted to win the Olympics. Not go to the Olympics, win the Olympics.
What took so long? 3 years of age?
Telling herself something, maybe singing a song here. Whatever gets you in the zone.
Well, we wait there, over to the parallel bars. And for the men, this is Petro Pachniuk, a 26-year-old Ukrainian from Kiev.
He actually has a very interesting history. He started his international competition with Team Ukraine, had an offer to go compete for Azerbaijan, went there for a little bit of time, said it wasn't right for him, couldn't get the training that he was looking for, petitioned to go back to Ukraine. It was accepted, so here we are.
And also said it was more about the results in Azerbaijan, whereas in Ukraine it was about the process and approach to achieve those results.
Absolutely. He's great here. Beautiful parallel bar worker. The Ukrainian leader, Oleg Vernayev, who was runner-up to King Kohei Uchimura at the Olympic Games in the all-around.
Runner-up very close, too. Was so close to winning that gold medal.
But Oleg, who is often in the American Cup, is actually recuperating from a couple of different surgeries. It might even be 3. Shoulder and legs. Really nice handstand position. Little bit of a balance check. Double front with a half. That was awesome. that looked like the half pipe right there. He was like twisting sideways. That was great. Double front with a half, done very unconventionally.
And now over to beam. And Japan's Mai Murakami sitting in second after 2 rotations.
I'll tell you what, if she gets through beam, this is not a slam dunk for Morgan Hurd, because Mai is fantastic on floor.
So far, super confident, very calm.
A little bit of a balance check there. Won the qualifying at the World Championships, and on this event came off on a double turn. Not sure if she's taken it out. You're required to do some type of a turning element like that.
Doesn't necessarily have to be as difficult as the double turn that she did.
This is jam-packed. Right here. Smart move. That was a double in Montreal, and that really is what cost her a podium finish and quite possibly the gold medal. Powerful gymnast. Gorgeous double pike.
Now on parallel bars for USA,
Well, the Rio Olympian, 4-time world championship team member, Mai Murakami, her score coming up. This is Petro Pachniuk, the Ukrainian, his score of 14.9 from a few moments ago on the parallel bars. And now the American Alan Bauer, 4th after 4 rotations, but we've already seen 2 of the athletes who are ahead of him in the standings struggle on these bars, so this is a big opportunity.
Little bit short on that handstand. Should have just flown up there. Had to use a lot of strength. That'll be a deduction for sure. Release skill right here. 1 1/4 front. Done with his legs straddled. Makes it more difficult. That was a great save. He was off balance on that swing to a handstand. It's called a stutz. And he can stick as well. Double pike. Oh.
Well, he has really shown no sign of nerves. He says he actually has to find his mom in the stands every competition and tell her to be calm before the meet. Normally you'd think it'd be the other way around.
Yeah, I was actually sitting behind both of his parents at the recent Winter Cup, and they were struggling. It's painful as a parent.
Over to the beam now, and here's the American Morgan Hurd in first place after 2 rotations.
And see, this is what I like to see. You know, she can see that the judges aren't ready for her, and a lot of times, you know, if you're inexperienced or uncomfortable, you just stand still and you stand in that exact place just waiting for the judge. She saw they weren't ready. She took her time. She walked off, put a little bit more chalk on her feet.
Now fellow American Alan Bauer on a score of 13.766 with his parallel bars routine. Sitting alongside Yul Moldauer, who is the current leader right now in the men's standings.
Yeah, both Hall from Great Britain and Sun Wei from China fell on parallel bars, which opens the door.
2 Oklahoma products right here, Moldauer and Bauer.
Yes, they are.
And Mai Murakami on the balance beam, a score of 13.6. Just over 2 points of deductions for her.
I don't know, Tim. In my opinion, I feel like that's a little bit low on the deductions. I definitely didn't see 2 points worth there.
Yeah, I agree. I'll tell you what, though, at the World Championships, the evaluation of balance beam was the most brutal I have ever seen on any event at any competition.
Right from the start, watch this skill right here. Very difficult, standing full.
Oh, baby.
Stunning.
Not one time did I see her come off the beam on that. In training here. Montreal, she was a little bit skittish on it. She was able to hold on. Actually won a silver medal on this event in Montreal at the Worlds.
See her talking herself through every single skill.
Philip Herder of Germany on parallel bars.
Very nice.
Tell you what, though, her dismount is off the charts difficult.
And it's brand new, so it is an upgrade from the World Championships.
She's going to do a full twisting double, but she'll keep her legs straight on it. Oof. Really good, but a little bit low on that landing. But that is tough stuff.
So Morgan Hurd looking to maintain the lead for the women here at the American Cup in Chicago. Despite the 2 points of deductions for Morgan Hurd on the balance beam, she is still going to maintain her lead here in the women's competition at the American Cup. So Morgan Hurd maintains her momentum, and with more on Morgan, let's send you over to Andrea Joyce.
Well, Steve, Morgan Hurd will tell you that being the world gymnastics all-around champion at age 16 is a pretty awesome thing. But gymnastics, as it turns out, is not her own only passion. She also loves to read. Morgan describes herself as a Harry Potter junkie. She has been known to dress up in character and stand in long lines to get the latest release. So you can imagine her delight when she got a tweet from the Harry Potter author, J.K. Rowling, congratulating her on her world success. Rowling called her a real-life hero in glasses, and Morgan told us that she was so excited she actually cried. And when we asked her which was better, the title or the tweet, she thought about it for a minute and said, I think it's a tie. Steve?
Well, she loves to read. All of her friends are always on social media, but she has to have a book in her hands, not even a Kindle. She needs to feel the pages. She's feeling the lead right now at the American Cup. All rise for Premier League mornings on NBCSN. It's one of football's biggest rivalries as Liverpool visit the Theatre of Dreams to take on Manchester United. Always compelling at Old Trafford, and it's next Saturday at 7:30 a.m. Eastern on NBCSN. Today in Chicago, it is Morgan Hurd, the 16-year-old American reigning world champion, the leader after 3 rotations at this American Cup, but 2 Americans in the top 3. You also have Miley O'Keefe, just over a point-and-a-half back. While on the men's side, it is Yul Moldauer, the 21-year-old from the University of Oklahoma, looking to win this event for the 2nd year in a row. He is the leader by over 2.5 points. Well, Yul and Morgan have been simply spectacular here at the American Cup this afternoon. And as far as Yul, what has stuck out the most about his performance through all of these rotations?
Well, as close to perfection as I've seen any gymnast be. I mean, he has been phenomenal from the very start till his last dismount on parallel bars. He's got over 2.5 points of a lead. He can fall once, maybe twice on high bar and win his 2nd in a row American Cup.
And Asti, as far as Morgan Hurd coming off the momentum of the World Championships last year, but first time at this American Cup, and she is not disappointed.
Not one bit, and she has showed exactly what she did at the World Championship. She is prepared, she's capable to not only handle the pressure, the nerves, the expectations. She has almost a point lead here going into the final event. Great floor routine coming up, but she has even more things planned. She showed me a few videos on her iPhone. Just wait later this season.
So Morgan Hurd back to action as we continue from the American Cup. Reigning national all-around champion, reigning American Cup champion, NCAA champion Yul Moldauer. And the American at this rate poised for his 2nd win at the American Cup. If he keeps this momentum rolling along and showing no signs of slowing down. Now born in Seoul, South Korea, adopted before he was 1 year old, grew up on a farm in Colorado before attending the University of Oklahoma, where he really started to mature, come into his own, and then last year the breakout year, and boy, the potential for Yul Moldauer just sky high.
Absolutely, and you know, ever since he was a little kid, he has been surrounded by the Olympics, Olympianism. Sasha Artemoff, a teammate of his, who he trained with, was the 2008 Olympic bronze medalist on pommel horse. So from a very young age, Yul saw greatness every single day.
And he's thankful for that. He said so many people in this country want to be in the spot that I'm in, and I take it very seriously. This isn't the American Cup. This is the American Cup.
And this is Elizabeth Seitz of Germany.
for her, not as difficult as we're going to be seeing from Morgan Hurd and some of the other competitors, but overall a great competition. Good start to the season as she looks ahead towards the World Championships in Tokyo 2020 in a few years.
And we swing over to the high bar, and this is the American Alan Bauer.
And you know, I was very surprised that he had some struggles on parallel bars. He's been dealing with what we call a rip on his hand, and parallel bars is the most challenging event when you have that. He's also not doing his most difficult release. He'll just do a double back over the bar. It's called a Kovacs. And that was not a great regrasp, and when you bend your elbows on that, it's just like bending your knees. So it's a 1, 3, or 5/10 deduction. That was 5. Full twisting double layout. A hop on the landing. I'll tell you, through 4 events, he was really great, but opened the door on the last one, and this one was not nearly what he's capable of doing.
He grew up in Arizona after being born in Nebraska. His mom was a Big 8 champion in the all-around at the University of Nebraska. We'll get his score in a moment. Meantime, Kelly Sim of Great Britain is next on the floor. Top 5 after 3 rotations.
Step went out of bounds. That's a 1/10 of a point. 1/10 if it's 1 foot. 3 if it's 2.
That was a good save there. Very under-rotated.
Wow.
Didn't quite have the power. Well, a solid routine here for Kelly. She said she was so excited to compete here at the American Cup. Competes in the British Championships next week, so what a great warm-up competition for that.
And the score for Alan Bauer, 12.866.
Thanks for watching today.
2 points of deductions.
Appreciate all the support from back home.
And next up is the German Philipp Herder in 7th after 5 rotations. Herder, the 25-year-old from Berlin, 3-time World Championship team member for Germany, but looking to participate in the Olympics for the first time in Tokyo. He was an alternate back in Rio in 2016.
Yeah, and as I said, he helped Germany make it to the Olympic Games at the test event. He said, I got to experience everything but the competition. Release right here. A nice, what we call a jam to a handstand. Used to be a required element to do that. It is no longer so. And that one should have gone right to the handstand position. This is a solid routine, but a lot of deductions, including that 310 hop.
So his score will be coming up in a moment.
He's gotten better on high bar, though. He says, at least now I'm not embarrassed anymore when I do high bar. It's gotten better, but some kids, I'll tell you, when they're young, they try to do high bar, and right from the beginning they have a fear.
So while we wait for his score, it is over to the floor. And this is Brooklyn Moores of Canada. When she made her international debut at the World Championships last year, was 5th on the floor at her home worlds, which were in Montreal.
This is just an absolutely stunning floor routine.
Every part of it. And I really hope that she gets herself back on track. She has really struggled today, but the tumbling is phenomenal and the artistry is gorgeous.
Just absolutely gorgeous. I could go on and on and on about this routine. If there was a how-to tutorial for how to do a floor routine, this would be the one to watch and learn from.
Phenomenal. Just gorgeous, gorgeous gymnastics.
So Philipp Herder, the German from a few moments ago, scored 13.1 on the high bar. While next up, it will be Japan's Kenzo Shirai, an Olympic and world champion. Was one of the big favorites coming in today. Started off strong on the floor, but then really stumbled in rotation 2 on the pommel horse that's dropped his standing.
5th going into the last rotation. His major release right here. Way too close to the bar. Has to do a kip out of it, which you're not allowed to do anymore. Oh boy, I can't believe he did that. I call that going out the back door. When you stoop your legs in and you're supposed to shoot up, your shoulders dislocate. But he just went a little bit too aggressive. The judges want to see you rock solid right up to the handstand, and it is so close to perfection. But sometimes when you try to tread on that line,
that also doesn't feel good.
What do you make of the mistakes we've seen from him here today?
Well, you know, we've said it over and over again, and you have as well. It is a very early World Cup. That's what the American Cup is, and a lot of these athletes are not in the type of condition that they want to be. He came in relatively early. I believe they were here on Monday, but it is a long trip from Japan. Another release. Survives that one, but has to bend his elbows. Sure, he wanted for Japan a much better showing than he has had today, but he's a champion.
Well, not the performance he wanted, but Yul Moldauer has been rolling as he brings us to the conclusion of the American Cup, looking for the win after this. The American Cup has been brought to you by Gymnastics Safe Sport. Together we can. And by the National Gymnastics Foundation Athlete Assistance Fund. Working our way towards the end of the American Cup in Chicago. An event that's been held since 1976. And the 16-year-old American Morgan Hurd, the leader by almost a point. Her fellow American Miley O'Keefe also in the top 3.
But Mai Murakami, you can't count her out. She's in second place, about a point behind, but she is the world champion on floor exercise. Morgan's got a hit.
So the warm-up continues for Morgan Hurd, while for the men, it is Yul Moldauer trying to defend his title from a year ago and well on his way with a lead of over 2.5 points.
Yeah, really, he's just got to grab the bar a bunch of times. And if he does that, it's an absolute that he will repeat as the American Cup champion. If there's one event where Yul does struggle a little bit, it's high bar. He's so quick that sometimes he gets going too fast on his prep skills, like before the major releases, and he can just fly past the bar.
So this is his warm-up. He'll be the final athlete to go in the final rotation for the men. Well, all of these athletes coming together here. First premier international event of the year. Biggest on U.S. soil, but everybody looking ahead at 2020 and Tokyo. Now that the Winter Olympics are in the rearview mirror, Tokyo is on the clock. And as far as the path to those next summer games, where do these athletes want to be going forward from this event?
Well, you know, the World Championships that are going to be held in the fall, they are the first qualifying for the Olympic Games. The top 3 teams will earn a berth for the Olympics at that championships. And one of the things that's important to note, teams have been 5-person teams up until this point in the last couple of Olympic Games. It will be a 4-person team, but there are 2, it's very complicated, 2 athletes that can qualify as an individual or an individual all-around gymnast.
And you know, it's not only just about having a great showing at the Olympic trials right before the Olympic Games. They are going to be looking back at previous world championships, international competitions. So it is going to be really important starting right here today to be as consistent as possible now leading up to the Olympic Games.
And Nestor Abad of Spain in 9th place after 5 rotations. Native of Madrid. Will turn 25 at the end of this month. He was in Rio, part of the Spanish team at the Olympics in Brazil, and trying to overcome a series of injuries over the years.
And I love this. He said, if you have a dream, protect it. People who cannot do it by themselves will tell you that neither can you. But if you want it, go and get it. How true, Nastia, huh?
Love that. This is actually his favorite event.
Nice release there. Showed good height.
Little leg separation right there, but finished on top of the bar.
Another variation of a... Oh my gosh. And that right there is because he was not exactly in the moment. He was thinking about what was coming, because it basically would have taken like 2 pounds of pressure just pulling on the bar just a little bit harder. I mean, this is fine here. He just lets go of that hand that's on the bar and doesn't yank himself over enough.
And I guarantee you when he does that in training, that probably never happens. And if it does, very rarely, because he is in that moment.
I like this guy a lot, though. Has a lot of the qualities you need to be a tremendous athlete. Didn't show that to us today at the American Cup, but he'll be back.
So funny. It sounds simple to say be in the moment, but as an athlete, you guys know best. You're always looking back at a mistake or looking ahead at what you have to do next. It's not that easy to be right there in that moment.
Well, everything happens so quickly, especially on the events like the high bar. For women, the uneven bars, it's one skill after another, so many times connected, and that is what makes it so difficult. But you do have to stay in that moment thinking only about the skill that you're currently doing, then you quickly move on to the next.
That's what the great people do. The great athletes are able to control negative thought and to stay exactly in the moment, in my opinion.
And finish strong like that.
So the men just getting underway in their final rotation at this American Cup. Yul Moldauer of the U.S., our leader, will be last. Nestor Abad kicking things off.
He talks about gymnastics, and he says that it has never stopped being a hobby, being fun, and I hope it never will. It's what helps me to dedicate all the time and the passion to this sport that I love so much.
He made a bet with his father one time that if he won the Spanish national championships, he would give up smoking. He won and has not had a cigarette since.
That's great. I read that, and I was just so happy to hear that.
So we will wait for his score. In the meantime, things much tighter on the women's side as we bring you to the floor.
And as we mentioned, she is the reigning world champion on the floor exercise.
Mai Murakami, four-time world championship team member, part of the Japanese squad in Rio. But she has the momentum from this event in Montreal when she won the floor at the Worlds last year.
And she can do something to Morgan Hurd. She can put even more pressure on her.
Morgan has actually upgraded her floor routine from Montreal, having a new skill in there. So, of course, it's going to be more difficult, but we'll have to see if, with a little bit of pressure, some expectations, someone right behind you, if you are able to live up to that pressure. I think she can do it.
A chance to post a score, put the pressure on Hurd, and if she overcomes Hurd and wins, she'll be the oldest female winner of this event in history at 21 years of age.
And she is going to make Morgan Hurd earn this great, difficult exercise.
And I bet you she is thinking, what if I could have had the performance I had today just a few months ago at those World Championships?
An embrace with the leader, Morgan Hurd.
A lot of people ask me about that in gymnastics. You see that often on both the men's and the women's side. There's no defense in gymnastics. It kind of really breeds a camaraderie with athletes all around the world.
Good job.
She can't tackle Morgan Hurd during this floor routine, although she might want to.
Over on the high bar, it is Sun Wei of China, the 22-year-old. His third appearance at this American Cup, has been on the podium before, finished third back in 2016.
Tennis?
An event where sometimes you don't see athletes come to the American Cup on multiple occasions. But he's been a regular.
But I'll tell you, Team China at the Rio Olympic Games, it was an abysmal performance. One team bronze medal. They had so many athletes that could have won not just medals, but gold medals on several events. And that's smarts. Wow. Just went a little bit too hard on that skill. His body traveled across the bar. Was super aggressive, trying to go extra hard. Heels come up maybe a little long. I don't know why he didn't grab that, though. And Steve, speaking from someone who has done that exact thing many times in my life, that hurts, and he's going to be very sore from it.
You felt the pain.
I did.
So when you got back on the bar, what did you do to get yourself back into the routine?
Yeah, I just tried to not think about it. This is epically bad. I was starting to say China had such a terrible Olympic Games, but then in 2017 they just rocketed back to the top. They had the first and the second place all-arounder and a gold medal on parallel bars. He's out of it.
Meantime, Mai Murakami of Japan on the floor, a 14.033. So now Morgan Hurd, the leader coming into this exercise, needs better than 13.067.
Which is very doable for Morgan. But as you said, Nastia, she is upgrading. She does the same mount that we saw Mai Murakami do. It's a double twisting double. And then she does the same second pass that Mai did, which is a double layout, but that's new for Morgan.
She was going to work on her landings here, and that was great.
Here's the new pass.
Well, what an incredible 6 months Morgan Hurd has had, world all-around champion.
And now the American Cup champion. That is going to be good enough to do it. As we've said, you want to do so many things in the sport. World champion, Olympic champion, national champion, and you want to win the American Cup. Check that box off, Morgan Hurd.
2 down, 2 to go.
She handled such enormous pressure at the World Championships in Montreal. In her first World Championships, had never won an individual title at an international event. The pressure of continuing the strong U.S. tradition. She answered the call there. Murakami put the pressure on her here, and once again, the 16-year-old comes through and delivers.
And here's that opening pass, a double twisting, double back, 2 flips, 2 twists. Just beautiful on that landing. Bam.
Awesome.
And a smile to finish.
Here's the new pass. It's a double laid out somersault. This could have been better. The landing could have been better. Got a little bit hung up in the air. Has to kind of pike her legs down a little bit, slides back and takes another step, but...
And here's that final tumbling pass. Again, she told us all week long she wants to clean up her landings. And just a tiny hop there, I would say mission accomplished. After today, upgraded the routine here, has even more upgrades to come in this routine.
We knew she would eventually be the champion. They can't crown it yet, but Miley O'Keefe cannot overtake her, and she did pass Mai Murakami with that tremendous routine.
Her teammate Miley O'Keefe, who she's been talking to throughout the day, offering words of encouragement. Third coming into this final rotation, the two-time U.S. Junior all-around champion.
You know, Miley actually said that a nice goal would to be top 3, and anything above would be a cherry on top. Unfortunately, not the best competition, but top 3 is still doable.
Love this routine, the tumbling, the choreography. This is a Nancy Roach choreographed routine. When the foot touches the white, it's out of bounds, 1/10 of a point for that. That's a great way to finish for her. Very happy. You know, sometimes we see athletes wilt under the pressure and really go out of the box with some of the errors they make. That wasn't the case with her. She had a fall on balance beam. She landed on the bar on uneven bars, but she was calm and composed, and she still has a very bright future.
Thank you. Well done. Thank you.
And now on the high bar. Final routine for Yul Moldauer of the U.S. He needs better than a 10.999. So, Tim, that begs the question, how many times can he fall and still win?
He can fall absolutely once, most likely twice, but more than that, Yul could do the routine that he competed when he was about 11 years old and win this American Cup. Nice one-arm giant. But once again, this one needs to go right to a handstand. This is where he has to be careful. Sometimes he gets going too fast. Not that one. Been able to do this since he was about 9 years old, I bet. Full twisting double layout, your chance. 2 in a row for Yul Moldauer.
A convincing, demonstrative performance by Yul Moldauer to win his 2nd straight American Cup.
And you know, it's not just a great day for Yul. USA Gymnastics at the last 2 Olympic Games, they've really underperformed. 8 years ago, they led after qualifying, finished a dismal 5th at the last Olympic Olympics. They were second after qualifying, out of the medals again with fifth. But Ewell has the consistency that the Team USA has been lacking. That release that I was talking about, where sometimes he gets going just a little bit too fast. And this was fast. If I were in the gym, I would have said, slow down a little bit, Ewell, but the timing is good. Let's go nice and early. Watch him looking for that bar. Latches on, straight arms afterwards.
And that dismount, Tim, I just have to say it because you didn't say it all day. Gymnastics 101, fly high and stick the landing.
Stop stealing my stuff.
What he's done all day long.
So Ewell Moldauer, Morgan Hurd, champions in 2018, and now they're both with Andrea.
Well, we talked about Morgan loving Harry Potter, and it did feel like there was a little bit of magic out there. Can you describe what this is like for you to follow up that world championship with this American Cup title?
I just feel ecstatic. I got home from Worlds and I just didn't stop training. I still worked 110% every day, getting back into that routine shape. Took a few days off, but that's about it. And I'm just glad to see my hard work pay off.
So you had said a year ago that you were worried about your lack of consistency. What's different for you now?
I think Worlds definitely helped me gain my consistency a lot and just gain my confidence. I try to focus on like one skill at a time. I don't rush ahead of myself anymore.
Okay, congratulations. And you'll talk about consistency. You're the first guy in over a decade to win back-to-back American Cup titles. Last year sort of launched your breakthrough season. What does this one mean for you?
You know, it's special. You know, I want to thank 5280. I want to thank my coaches, Vlad and Arena, and I want to thank all the guys at OU and Mark, Taki, and Steve for just helping get to where I'm at today. And every day I get to come out and represent USA. It's a big honor because it's something special. You get to represent your country.
Tim Daggett said he thought this was the best he had ever seen you compete. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, there are definitely things I know in my head that I still need to fix. Landings, of course. My high.
Yeah, it was so bad.
Well, you know, there's always something you can be doing. So I always, you know, take this meet and look at it, see what I need to work on, and just move on from there.
All right, congratulations. Steve?
Andrea, thank you very much. What stood out the most about Moldauer here today, Tim?
Consistently, start to finish, just being darn near perfect.
As he gets the win ahead of James Hall and Petro Pekniuk, while on the women's side, it's Morgan Hurd, really with her back up against the wall because of Murakami, but she answered the challenge.
She absolutely did. She showed the world one more time what she's capable of doing. Shed so much light on the sport of gymnastics here today.
Thanks for supporting.
There are your winners, Hurd and Moldauer. And tonight at 8 on NBC, the NHL Stadium Series heads to Annapolis in the Naval Academy as the Toronto Maple Leafs take on the Washington Capitals. Coming up next on NBC, it's the third round of the WGC Mexico Championship. And now for Nastia Lukin, Tim Daggett, and Andrea Joyce, I'm Steve Schlanger. Thanks for joining us, everyone, as Hurd and Moldauer are the winners in 2018 as we say so long from the American Cup.